So, as promised, it's time to take a look at the incredible Emirates order history, which includes aircraft that they passed on, debated, and so much more, before coming to a definitive decision. Emirates certainly hasn't made it easy for me. While not stretching as far as some carriers regarding, say, orders, they certainly have been a worthy talking point, with numerous requests for proposals, deals almost closed but then passed on, orders cancelled, and so much more in between. So without further ado, let me get stuck into it, but make sure you're subscribed. Actually, over 80% of viewers aren't, so it would mean a lot if you did. Emirates' early stages of operations saw several aircraft types operate that never really got off the ground as, say, a mainstay. It was, however, in 1992 when Emirates really stamped their authority with the order of Boeing aircraft. Specifically, the 777 series was front and centre, and this would end up being their first commitment to the program that has definitely been a mainstay in their fleet for nearly 30 years. That includes from the order to operation. Factoring in the eventual 777X and those operations too, the likelihood that the wider 777 series, from first order to eventual retirement, could be around for 60 to 70 years is undoubtedly a very real possibility. In any case, 1992 saw commitments for the 777-200 variant, with the ER, the extended range, also included. It wasn't any massive order, but for Emirates in their early stages, nearly 10 firm units would substantially aid them for future growth. Remember, in the 1990s, we are looking at a very different airline to what we know today, one that is working its way towards a end product that we witness now in the 2020s. The latter stages of the 1990s saw that commitment to the 777s come to fruition, and Airbus A330s began being delivered too. These two variants were ultimately the first two substantial aircraft types that the airlines flew in bulk numbers. These two really led them into the next decade and the turn of the century, when a lot would change. Emirates would become a significant player in the industry as Dubai saw exceptional growth and wealth, and that would reflect in the Emirates fleet, which also significantly would look different. The early 2000s saw Emirates begin with a historic deal when it did announce a 71-unit aircraft order valued at over USD 19 billion. This included orders for the Airbus A380-800 and the Boeing 777-300ER. It was the biggest order in civil aviation history at the time, and fittingly included the two fleet types that would remain decades later a very much focal point. Emirates, however, had no intention to stop growing even after this commitment to the A380 in 2003, with further orders for that Airbus aircraft later that year. A deal included notably more A380s, but also a new aircraft type, that being another quad-engine plane, the Airbus A340, with both the A340-500 and A340-600 being selected. The A340 could easily be a forgotten type that flew with EK. Ultimately, its introduction and retirement saw it never really stretch its legs as far as it potentially could have. The A340 eventually suffered a worse fate than the A380 and even the 747, as it entered service as a 777 competitor, but was equipped with 4 engines and therefore wildly out of favour. Some would say it never really stood a chance. Emirates backed up commitments to the Boeing 777s though a few years later, with the largest 777 order in history. 42 further aircraft would be acquired. It included a host of variants that would enable Emirates to enjoy more flexibility when it came to deployment across the network. By 2005, all its A340-500s had also been delivered, following an investment. However, despite acquiring more A340s, the following years would really highlight the 340's failures, with Emirates cancelling a substantial 20-unit deal for an A340-600. 2006 was also a pretty busy time for the airline, with new aircraft being ordered left, right and centre. It was also seeing the next era arrive for EK. While committing to more Airbus A380s as you would expect, the company was examining the A350 and 787 for its future flying. 70 Airbus A350s were eventually ordered later that year in a substantial commitment to future flying. Options were included as well, but see, Emirates doesn't do anything small, and alongside commitments for the A350, shock horror, more A380s and 777s were ordered, increasing those respective tallies. One of the many commitments that Emirates never progressed with, and came a little bit later down the line, was for A330-300s and the A350-1000. A handful of years after this agreement was reached, Emirates cancelled it. It's worth mentioning this was just an LOI, or letter of intent, at the time. The turning of the decade would see Emirates commit to more A380s, a substantial deal worth $11.5 million and consisting of 32 units. A common theme throughout the history of Emirates, and especially the past 2 decades, has been those continued orders for the 380 and 777, as it quickly, through fleet retirement plans, became a crucial part of its future. A deal in 2013 for the A380 would only enlarge their commitments, with a staggering 50 new planes ordered. Ultimately, though, later down the line, some of these would be cancelled and result in the end of the Airbus A380 program. The 777X will be another hugely important part of the airline's future, with the deal being struck on the 25th of November 2013 and would then soon grow to over 100 plus units. Emirates would affirm their stance as the largest customer of the plane by a country mile. By 2014, Emirates had also cancelled its order for those A350s I mentioned later back. Another staggering twist following a fleet review that determined the aircraft would be surplus to their requirements. However, recent years have been more confusing, with multiple swaps in aircraft, changes and more. The airline announced a deal for the 787 Dreamliner in 2018. However, this was off the back of a 2017 commitment for 40 787-10s that eventually ceased and was no longer talked about. In 2019, the airline would sign for the A330neo and further Airbus A350s. However, this A330neo would be cancelled just to add confusion to recent dealings, and more Airbus A350s would join. Thus far, despite all these commitments, the airline still only flies the A380 and 777 series. That'll change in 2024 with the first arrival of the Airbus A350 and then soon other aircraft types. But for now, this is their complex order history. There are no two ways around it. I've actually excluded major freighter decisions, so don't worry, there's a lot more to cover when it comes to Emirates. They're a fascinating company, or should I really say group, that has a lot of dealings with aircraft over recent times. And remember, despite me informing you all of this, they're eyeing up a potential purchase of new widebodies in the sum of 3 digits. So that's over 100 total units. Do we know where that will be headed at the moment? No, not any clue, but certainly won't be the A380, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But while these numbers at the moment may seem low, based off previous history, you'll know that they'll probably only increase with time, as Emirates requires more aircraft, retires aging ones, and propels forward with these next generation planes. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thanks a lot for your support, take care and be safe, and I'll see you next time.